All right, guys. So last week on this channel, we went over potential draft cornerbacks for the Green Bay Packers in this upcoming draft class, as cornerback is a big need. We looked at their fit in the Packers scheme, their RAS, and if they fit the Packers threshold. Now, there's much more of a Packers threshold at cornerback than there is safety, but in today's video, we're going to be diving down into the safety position because I did ask you guys in that video if you'd want to see the same type of video, but on safeties, as safety is also a big need for the Green Bay Packers. Yes, they signed Xavier McKinney, which he's going to be their true starting safety, but they're going to need some more depth in that safety room. They have Anthony Johnson Jr., who I still believe in, and I thought was a great pick in the 7th round last year. They have undrafted free agent Benny Sapp. They also have Zane Anderson, but I think they're going to need to add 1 to 2 safeties in this draft class. So in today's video, I wanted to dive down into the type of safeties that are available. And at the end of the day, this safety class is very weak. I'd be really shocked to see a safety drafted in the 1st round. Like a month ago, it was like, okay, Tyler Nubin could be the Packers pick at 25. I don't think he goes in the 1st round. It's just a very weak safety class, and after some of the testing and RASs came out, it makes me even more so confident that a safety won't go in the 1st round, but there are some hidden gems in this draft class and some guys that I really do see that the Packers would be looking at and adding to their draft board. So that's what we're going to do in today's video, break down all the safeties, at least the ones that are projected to go in the first 7 rounds, and see the best fits for the Green Bay Packers. So firstly, I wanted to go over the safeties the Packers have drafted in the last 10 years, going all the way back to 2014 with Clinton Dix. Now, the Packers have only drafted 5 safeties in the last 10 years. So it kind of showcases how they value the safety position in terms of the draft. A lot of teams and front offices believe they can get, good quality safeties in free agency or the later rounds. And safety is very similar to running back, where it's like they're kind of undervalued, they're not paid much, and they're expendable. So I get why the Packers have only drafted 5 safeties over the last 10 years, but let's dive down into them. And there's no real correlation here in terms of a quote unquote Packers threshold like we see with cornerback or wide receiver. But at the end of the day, we know the Packers like their athletes. So bringing up the little table I have here of the 5 drafted safeties the last 10 years, we'll start at the most recent. Anthony Johnson Jr., 5'11", 205 pounds, and he had an 8.12 RAS. Before that was Vernon Scott, 6'1", 206 pounds. Didn't qualify for an RAS because he didn't test, but I would assume it would be somewhere around 8 or 9 if we're looking at Vernon Scott's athletic ability, right? Then we have Darnell Savage, who the Packers just moved on from, signed a 3-year deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. A little bit undersized, 5'10", 198, but an athlete, an 8.37 RAS. Then we have Josh Jones. Man, what Josh Jones could have been, or what we thought he could have been. I mean, this guy, just the prototypical profile for a great safety in the NFL, and he was everything but that. Josh Jones was 6'1", 220 pounds, and had a 9.28 RAS. So up to this point, we're stemming back to 2017. The Packers kind of have a threshold, right? Like they wanted athletic safety with an above an 8.0 RAS. Height's not as big as a deal, and they generally want their safeties to be at or above 200 pounds. But then Clinton Dix, their 1st round pick in 2014, 6'1", 208, so that part is all good, but had a 4.87 RAS. And here's the thing about RAS with safeties, which I'm not too, strict on it that I would be, say, with a cornerback, a wide receiver, something of that sort, because a lot of the times safeties aren't the greatest athletes. Like they don't put up the best 40-yard dash time, or they don't look crazy athletic in terms of the paper standpoint, like the RAS. But when you watch the film or you put on the tape, a lot of these safeties with low RASs are a lot rangier than the RAS depicts. Tyler Nubin is one of them. Cameron Kinchin's another, where it's like they have god-awful RASs, which we'll go over. But on the field, they are rangy. Like they're faster than their athletic profile depicts. So although there's no tried and true Packers threshold for safety, we're going to try to kind of keep it and say the Packers generally are going to go more towards an athlete in terms of RAS, and their safety's probably got to be around 200 pounds or more. All right, so now let's move into the table I have created for all the safeties in the draft class, and we'll start with the first 5. And just like the episode on the cornerbacks last week, a very similar table. We have their name, the school, height and weight, age, position fit, how many slot snaps in 2023, how many deep snaps in 2023, and how many box snaps in 2023. Because obviously a safety can play a bunch of different positions, so this is also going to be very important based on the Packers' needs, right? They still kind of need a slot person. They definitely need a box box safety. So, they might be more inclined to draft someone that had a ton of box snaps in 2023 to be their box safety in this defense. Then we also have RAS, then Packers threshold, and then their projected round in this draft. All right, so first let's start with Tyler Nubin. A lot of people's safety number one, and he was someone that I was like, ooh, the Packers should look at him in the first round, and then I kind of hopped off that. And I think the Packers are going to go elsewhere at a more premier position, or at least what they value as a more premier position than safety. But from Minnesota, he's 6'1", 205, 23 years old. I think his position fit in the NFL is going to be a deep safety, a free safety, but with some versatility. I think he could definitely drop down into the box on early downs. He only played 10.9% in the slot, so I don't see him as a real slot defender type of safety. 60.9% deep, so that's why you can kind of have him as either single high or two deep look. Tyler Nubin being your free safety. Box 25.8%, so you still could drop him down low. He has the size, 6'1", 205. And where he really struggles, or where he struggles right now in terms of what I see and what the Packers probably see, is his very low athletic profile, 3.39. So that's why I have him as no for a Packers threshold safety. And the projected round first/second, I see it as a second. Next on this list, we have Javon Bullard out of Georgia. He's 5'10", 198 pounds, 22 years old. I also see him as a free safety at the NFL level. He had more slot snaps than Tyler Nubin, so he's a little more versatile in terms of you can play him deep or maybe put him in the slot. But he had 60.7% snaps deep and only 13.4% snaps in the box. So he's not a real box type of safety. Think of him more as like a single high type of guy, similar to a Jordan Fuller or something of that sort. And his RAS an 8.17, so he's a good athlete. So I do have him as a Packers threshold fit. He's a defensive back from Georgia. He's right around 200 pounds, a little bit on the shorter side at 5'10", but again, the Packers have drafted a 5'10" safety in Darnell Savage in the recent past. So I think if they wanted to get a safety to have two deep looks with McKinney and another guy, I think Javon Bullard would be a target, say, in around the second round for the Green Bay Packers, where the Packers have two picks. Now, the next safety on this list is my favorite, and is a safety that, hey, I'm cool with the Packers using either one of their second round picks on Jaden Hicks. Obviously, it would be better if they didn't have to use 41 on him, but I think he could go by then. So if the Packers do end up drafting Jaden Hicks at pick 41, I'm completely okay with it. I mean, I think he is the best safety in this class, in my opinion, or is going to be the best safety based on what the Packers need. Right, he's 6'2", 211 pounds, so has the size. He's also 21 years old, and I think he's going to be a great box safety, that Adrian Amos rule in the NFL. He only played 13.10% snaps in the slot last year, 25% deep, but he played 57.9% snaps in the box in 2023. And I really enjoyed Jaden Hicks. I feel like he's great against the run. He's a very sound, solid tackler, and he can come up and make a play. An 8.97 RS, also a great athlete. So yes, he does fit the Packers threshold in my opinion. 6'2", 211 pounds. Just all these measurables and what I see Jaden Hicks as is giving me like Josh Jones PTSD, but I think he actually is going to be a good safety in the NFL. So if the Packers end up drafting Jaden Hicks in the second round, I'm very, very content with that. Then we have Cameron Kinchins, and man, he has continued to fall from Miami, 5'11", 203 pounds. He's also 21 years old. I think he'll be a free safety at the NFL level. 17.7 snaps in the slot last year, 59.4% deep, and 17.2% in the box. He has an even lower RAS than Tyler Nubin at 2.32. That's why I just don't have him as a fit for the Green Bay Packers. Like, I think they could draft a guy with, say, maybe like a 4 or 5 RAS if they really like him. And it's like, okay, clearly this guy doesn't have the greatest measurables, but on tape, he's great. And I think Cameron Kinchins on tape is a good safety, but I just don't know if the Packers would go ahead and draft a guy with like a 2.32 RS. I really don't know if they would. Say if Kinchins is sitting there in their second pick of the third round, or they trade up in the fourth round and he's still there, I wouldn't be mad at it. But anything higher than that, I just don't see the Packers going for. He definitely has fallen a bunch. I mean, early on in the draft process, he was like a borderline, oh, could you draft him in the first round? Maybe you're lucky if you can get him in the early in the second. And that's just how much the draft process changes over the the course of the offseason, which is crazy. But I have him as a second to third round pick. He's probably going to end up being a third round pick in my opinion, maybe even later. Then we have Kalen Bullock out of USC, 6'2", 188 pounds. I have him as a hybrid type of safety at the NFL level, 25.9% snaps in the slot, 37.9 deep, and 32.4 in the box. So you can kind of put him anywhere, but he was a poor tackler at USC, so keep that in mind. So I don't know if he necessarily transitions into a box guy guy in the NFL because he does have some tackling issues. Average to above average athlete, 6.27 RAS. So I kind of have him as a maybe for the Green Bay Packers. I just don't necessarily know if I want another safety in the building that just can't tackle. I mean, we had that a lot with Darnell Savage, where some of these other safeties like Jaden Hicks, they're great tacklers in my opinion. So I do have him as a maybe here just because he's 6'2", 188 pounds, a little bit lighter than the Packers but the versatility does intrigue me. We know the Packers love their versatile players. All right, before we move on to the next set of safeties, I want to let you guys know that today's video is being sponsored by BetUS, and right now in BetUS, you can get a 125% deposit match on your first 3 deposits up to $2,500. And also for the month of April through BetUS, I'm giving away 5 free bets of $25 to the first 5 people to DM me on Twitter showing that you do indeed have a BetUS account, whether that's a screenshot or your account number. DM me on Twitter showcasing that, and the first 5 people to do so, I will get your account credited with a free $25 bet. And also in BetUS, there's tons of different future NFL bets you can place. Right now, Jordan Love to be the MVP of the 24-25 regular seasons at plus 1,200, so he's tied for 5th with CJ Stroud here on that list. I'm going to go ahead and place a bet on this. I think Jordan Love very well could be the MVP of the 2024 season. I have very, very high hopes for Jordan Love's second starting season in the NFL. What we saw last year, just so much promise. So if I put $50 down on that, I could win another $600. So I'm going to go ahead and place that bet. Definitely tail my bet. Go on BetUS, get a 125% deposit match on your first 3 deposits with code JOIN125.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
All right, now back into the safety list. Next on the list is Dadrian Taylor Demerson from Texas Tech. He's another safety I really like and I think would be an option at the end of the 3rd round. He's 5'10", 197 pounds. Don't have an age for him. I looked around some players in the upcoming draft. This is really hard to find an age for. I have him as a free safety at the NFL level, 24.8% snaps in the slot, 59.5 deep, and 13.9 in the box. His RAS at 8.75. I think he fits the Packers threshold. Taylor Demerson's a safety that, I think would fit wonderfully next to McKinney in a 2-deep look. But the Packers might be looking to get more of a box guy with, say, their first pick. That's going to be a safety. So it really depends. If they go Jaden Hicks, I would be happy with them also going Taylor Demerson. But we'll see how this draft goes. But he is a safety I really like, and I think the Packers will have their eyes on. Sion Vaki is the next safety out of Utah, 5'11", 210 pounds, 22 years old, a hybrid safety in my opinion, 19.4 in the slot, 47 deep, and 25 in the box, 7.84 RAS, so I do have him as a Packers fit. So Packers threshold, I have yes, projected round in the 3rd. Then we have Tyke Smith, safety out of Georgia. Definitely the highest slot snaps out of all safeties on this list. 5'10", 202 pounds, 23. I have him listed as a nickel safety because he had 68.9% of snaps in the slot, only 2.9% deep. So this guy is a nickel defender. Like, you can almost kind of consider him a cornerback at this point, like a nickel cornerback. And if the Packers don't like the other options at nickel cornerback, or they're drafted and they still want a guy, Tyke Smith is definitely an option. So I could have almost included him in the cornerback video last week, but he is listed as a safety, so that's why I did that. And 13.8% in the box, 7.31 RAS. I have him as a maybe, but it really just depends. I think the Packers want their nickel guy in the slot, and they haven't got it yet in the 3rd round, 4th round, and Tyke Smith is sitting there. I think they would go ahead and take a look at him. Then we have Malik Mustafa, another one of my draft crushes out of Wake Forest, 5'10", 209 pounds, 22 years old. I have him as a hybrid safety. I think you can put this guy anywhere. 21.5 in the slot, 24.3 deep, and 48.8 in the box. So if the Packers want a guy that, hey, we need him to be our box safety, but we can also put him deep in 2-deep looks. We can put him in the slot, move him around wherever we want, because this guy is an extreme athlete. He's fast, he can hit, he can cover. That's Malik Mustafa. He's one of my favorite safeties in this class. And if the Packers end up with him, I'll be ecstatic. A 9.17 RAS, so I do have him as a Packers threshold fit with yes, and a 3rd to 4th round draft projection. Then we have Cole Bishop out of Utah. I know a lot of people like Cole Bishop. 6'2", 206, so he definitely has the size for the Green Bay Packers in terms of, like, a bigger type of safety. 23 years old. I have him as a hybrid fit. I think he can kind of play either box or deep. You can move him around. Not too much in the slot. He did play 16.5% in the slot last year, but 42.10 deep and also 30.7% in the box, and actually has the highest RAS on this entire list, a 9.87. So we know the Packers probably have him on their draft board. So I do have him as a threshold fit, and he's also a 3rd to 4th round projection. Then we have Bo Braid out of Maryland, 6 foot, 203 pounds, 22 years old. I have him as a strong safety fit, only 14.3% in the slot, 27 deep, but 50.6% in the box. So another box safety option for the Green Bay Packers, say in the 3rd to 4th round. He doesn't qualify for an RAS, but I still think he would have a decent one, so I have him as a Packers threshold fit. Then we have James Williams out of Miami. I see him as more as like a linebacker, right? He's 6'4", 231 pounds. I think he's way too big to be a safety in today's NFL, especially if you're a one deep look, right? 21 years old. I have him as a box/linebacker, so purely remaining in the box in my opinion. 13.3% in the slot. He did play most of his snaps deep last year for Miami, but he was also with Cameron Kinchins. And college is just way different. I just don't see a 6'4", 231-pound safety remaining there. It's kind of similar to like the Tariq Carpenter pick that the Packers made, right? Also a very poor RAS, a 4.59. So I don't have him as a fit for the Packers, but if they did want, kind of that versatile guy like a Tariq Carpenter, which didn't work out, then maybe they have James Williams on their board, but I'm not too fond of it. Then we have Jalen Simpson from Auburn. He's 6 foot, 179 pounds, 23 years old. I have him as a hybrid guy. He can kind of do it all. 30% in the slot, 46 deep, and 23.10 in the box. He does have a decent RAS of a 7.35, but I don't have him as a Packers fit because right now he's listed at 179 pounds. I think that is way too light for what the Packers like at safety. They're only once in the past 10 years have drafted a safety under 200 pounds, and that was Darnell Savage at 198 pounds. So I just don't see it as a fit there. Then we have Dejon Anthony from Ole Miss, 23 years old. I also see him as a nickel safety. So there's definitely some options here with Tyke Smith, Dejon Anthony, and the next guy on this list as a pure like nickel type of safety, almost cornerback role. 53.3% in the slot, 22.7 deep, 21% deep. So he can definitely move around. Like he took snaps at all three positions. 6.57. I have him as a maybe. Nothing about Dejon Anthony really jumps out to me. Like nothing like size or athleticism or, hey, he's really good at one thing. But he is all around a decent safety. Then we have Omar Brown from Nebraska, 6'1", 205. Also a nickel safety. 65% of his snaps in the slot last year. Only 9% deep and 22 in the box. So very similar to Tyke Smith, like a pure nickel defender. 6.24 RAS. I do have him as a fit or Packers threshold fit. Then we have Keaton Oladapo. If you guys watch my mock drafts, you know I'm pretty obsessed with Keaton Oladapo. And there's definitely like three safeties in this entire list that I just really like. I really like Jaden Hicks, Malik Mustafa, and Keaton Oladapo. And I'd probably even include Taylor Demerson into that. But Oladapo is one of my late round draft crushes. You can get him in the 7th round in PFF mock drafts. I think he goes 5th or 6th. And if the Packers go ahead and select him in the 5th or 6th, I'm very happy at that. Oregon State, 6'2", 216 pounds, 23 years old. I am as a hybrid safety. You can literally put this guy anywhere, right? 35.2 in the slot, 22.10 deep, 37% in the box, a good athlete, 8.14 RAS. I think he's 100% on the Packers threshold, and I think he is on their draft board if they want to pick up a second safety. Say if they draft a Jaden Hicks or a Taylor Demerson and they want to go with another guy later in this draft, Keaton Oladapo I think is an awesome answer. Then we have Trey Taylor from Air Force. I really like this guy as well as a later round safety. 6 foot, 213 pounds. I see him as a strong safety at the NFL level. 22.6 in the slot, 28.2 deep, 46.2 in the box, so a box option there as well. And a great athlete, 9.71 RAS, the second highest on this list, so I do see him as a Packers fit. Then we have Josh Proctor from Ohio State, 6'1", 199 pounds, 24 years old, so a little bit on the older side. Who knows if the Packers would go ahead and draft, say, a 24-year-old safety in the later rounds. I see him as a free safety fit. 25.6% in the slot, 47.7 deep, and 25.4 in the box, 6.83 RAS. I have him as a maybe. I just think he's a little too old for the Packers liking at safety, so I did put him as a maybe because other than the age, I do like him as like a hybrid type of safety and whatnot. Then we have Kenny Logan from Kansas. He's 5'10", 213 pounds, 23 years old. I also have him as a hybrid safety, only 17.5% in the slot last year, but 39.7 deep and 41 in the box. So he really just split his snaps between deep and in the box. They moved him up and back a lot. No RAS, so I also have him as a maybe because I just don't really know that profile yet. Then for the last two, we have Dominique Hampton from Washington. He's 6'2", 215 pounds, so one of the bigger safeties in this class. I have him as a hybrid role, but probably end up being like a box type of safety. 25.6 in the slot, 37.6 deep, and 30.4 in the box. So again, you can just move him around a lot, and he's a great athlete, a 9.0 1.19, so I do have him as a Packers fit, maybe a 6th round, a 7th round guy that they're looking at, to bring in to have depth and even be a special teamer as well. Then finally, we have Ryan Watts out of Texas. I added him to this list. He's a cornerback, but I think he'll be a safety at the NFL level. 6'3", 208 pounds. I think he'll be a strong safety at the NFL level, and he doesn't really have any snap counts because he was playing cornerback. So as we see here, slot deep in box, I don't really have anything there, but he is a good athlete at a 9.11 RAS. I think he would be a good flyer pick, 6th round, 7th round, to a guy for depth at safety, just similar to Dominique Hampton, the guy prior. So I do have him as a Packers fit. So those are all the safeties in the upcoming 2024 draft class. Which ones I see as a fit for the Green Bay Packers? Obviously, I think the Packers are going to walk away with probably 1 to 2 safeties out of this draft class. It is a weak one, but at the end of the day, the Packers need depth there. They need 1 to 2 more guys. And yeah, they could go bring back Rudy Ford or sign another free agent. There's still Simmons out there. There's Julian Blackmon. They're still out there. So the Packers very well could just go that route because the draft safety class is weak. But even if they go and sign a Simmons or sign a Blackmon, I still think they end up drafting a safety. And some of the guys I really like and I really want to see in the green and gold, first and foremost, is Jaden Hicks. Would love the Packers select him in the 2nd round. Also like Dadrian Taylor Demerson, say in the 3rd round, maybe early 4th round. Then the 2 other guys I really like, firstly, Malik Mustafa from Wake Forest. I think he's a tremendous athlete, and you could put him anywhere. He's kind of similar to what they should do with Darnell Savage, or if they kept him, what they should be doing with Darnell Savage, kind of moving him around, letting him play ball, right? I think Malik Mustafa would be an awesome fit in this Packers' new defense with Jeff Hafley. Then finally, Keaton Oladapo from Oregon State. You guys know how much I talk about him, and he's one of my late-round draft crushes at safety. But let me know down in the comments below, out of all of these safeties, which one do you want the Packers to draft the most, or which one do you think is the best fit for the Green Bay Packers to be that next guy next to Xavier McKinney and Anthony Johnson Jr.? Let me know down in the comments below. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Also comment, what position would you want me to do this next on? Do you want me to do, say, offensive linemen or interior guys? Kind of comparing how many snaps they took, a tackle or guard or center, or where they project at the NFL level, or maybe even inside linebacker or receiver. The Packers very well could draft a wide receiver, so if you want to see those as well, just let me know down in the comments below what position I should do next. But I appreciate you guys coming out to the video. If you could, please leave a like down below. Supports the channel a ton. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you guys for all the support on the channel. I'll catch you on the next one, and as always, go Pack Go.